And of course, the discussion that we are on this morning is all about the BBI. Is it a unifying factor or a dividing wedge, so to speak? And we eagerly wait to see that also being presented to the President via the task force at State House this morning. So we shall be keeping our eyes peeled and also pinning back our ears to hear what will be happening on the ground as well. But we promise to circle back with Boni Khalwale, who right now is stoutly against the BBI himself. And he's saying this is a fat, I should say, waste of time and money looking for answers for questions that already have answers. One, electoral injustices, we have the Kriegler report. When we talk about election violence, we have the Waki Commission report. When we talk about the national unity, there is a National Cohesion and Integration Act. When you talk about historical injustices, we have the TJRC report, and it goes on and on and on. Boni, so you think this is a waste of time and money as well? Do you stand with your view that you had tweeted?
Allow me to comment on the cartoon.
On the cartoon, right? I should bring it up.
Yeah, well, that is where I was.
Right.
Everybody has had an opportunity.
Please, then you'll go back to...
Yes, and then I'll come to that.
Sure.
Yes, very quickly. But please remember that everybody has had his time, eh? So should I. This cartoon is actually derived from an ancient mythology that was captured in Aesop's fable.
Yes.
And Aesop was describing a council of mice.
Yes.
So the mice were faced with a murderous cat. And they were saying, how do we deal with it so that it doesn't always sneak in and eat us? So first thing you learn from this cartoon is that the cartoonist is telling Kenyans that parliamentary system is dangerous in our situation, a murderous cat. So how do we bail it so that it doesn't sneak in to eat any one of us?
It will always be sounding a warning.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the backbone of that particular cartoon. Having said that,
right, but maybe we have another cartoon. You can actually try and pick it up. Still, what do you think about them? This still from Victor himself, and I think maybe all of them there. You can see this sheep. And this is a BBI report, reading for the sheep.
Yes.
And we have Tinga there, and Antoinette, and also Arab Singh also carrying his sheep, but walking away.
And crying.
Yes, that one was yesterday. And it speaks to what I'm going to say just in the next contribution, just now.
Okay.
So let me flow.
Please.
The morale of this particular fable is that when you are planning, you should not always focus on the outcome alone. You should always know that the plan is also important. In this case, the outcome was to bail the cat, but the plan was how to do it. Now, because it is very difficult to reinvent the wheel, especially in the current times, Kenyans want to be cheated through because all of them were not there in 1963. Or if they were there, we were 3 years old. I don't know how old Eseli was. Eseli must be having 1 or 2 years older than me. We were very young people, we don't know. In 1963, President Mzee Kenyatta, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Masinde Muliro, Ronald Ngala, Daniel Moi, and Martin Shikuku, in 1963, after we adopted the parliamentary system, consciously moved the country away from the parliamentary system because they said, and they were right, that parliamentary system best thrives in a situation whereby either you have a king or an emperor. And they agreed that with our 42 different formations, there was no single unifying factor who we would call our king or our emperor to whom the parliamentary system would report. So they refused it. 1963, consciously the leadership of the country thought it was not right for us. And by the way, President Uhuru's father was then the prime minister. He relinquished that for the sake of posterity. Fast forward, the Standard is asking you that was the long wait for the BBI worthwhile? And this is where I come in. The answer is a loud no. Why? Because one, while I was in Parliament, and Eseli was in Parliament, and Cheruyot was in Parliament, and Wamatangi was in Parliament, both Senate and the National Assembly, decided that we should audit the 2010 Constitution. We set aside 90 million and added a further 60 million and gave it to a committee for audit, which was headed by the Auditor General, Dr. Edward Ouko. They completed the audit, they presented the report is there. Two, the things that the 9-point agenda wants to speak to, as you have correctly said, have already been sufficiently addressed by very competent and capable experts. The issue of violence, the curricular report, the issue of electoral the issue of electoral injustice, the curricular report, the issue of electoral violence, the Waki Commission report, the issue of historical injustices, TJRC, and including the Ndungu Land Commission report, and finally the issue of national unity has actually been reduced by Parliament, both Senate and the National Assembly, and the four of us who are there, we reduced it into the National Integration and Cohesion Act. So what we are doing, we are wasting money just to stroke the ego of the president and the former prime minister. In the interest of posterity, in the interest of integrity and patriotism, we must tell the two honorable leaders of this country that you are wasting our money, you are wasting our time. And who have they given to be in the driving seat? I'm glad that Amolo, you're here. The 2010 Constitution attracted a lot of experts on matters constitution. You are one of them. Now you have given the person in the driving seat on that committee, the only expert we see with that kind of experience is Amos Wako. Amos Wako has got a history. It is Amos Wako who set this country to the disruptive, violent referendum of 2005. He took us, ministers and assistant ministers, to Kilifi, changed that draft that had been proposed by what Amolo has given us here, and gave us something called Kilifi draft. And Kibaki told us we shall also support it. It is the one that was the genesis to the post-election violence. Wako is the wrong person to be the one driving this process. We must set aside this thing, BBI, and forget about it completely and go on, use the audited report of the committee, legal, that was chaired by Dr. Edward Ouko. Finally,
thank you. I think you've really...
Finally, my brother Amolo has spoken to the way forward. Kenyans, you ain't seen nothing yet. After you get the report today, then it is read to us tomorrow, as if we cannot read it on ourselves. Then what next? Right. Unfortunately, to change the constitution, there are only two ways. You can either use the parliamentary system or use the popular initiative. BBI has no entry. So they will have to...
Thank you. Time is up. Interesting enough, we have also Anyang' Nyong'o with his book, Presidential or Parliamentary Democracy in Kenya. Just alluding to what Boni Khalwale is saying, maybe just to read a snippet. What it says here, that in the Bomas draft, an executive prime minister of the Westminster type was envisaged. Yes. In the Kilifi draft, although the position of prime minister was retained, it was watered down to be a mere appointee of the president performing the duties of a leader of government business in-house. Parliament in the Bomas draft was bicameral, consisting of the National Assembly and the Senate, while the Kilifi draft dropped the Senate. Further, in Kilifi draft, what appeared by and large as a devolved system of government simply retained the old system of provincial administration, while the Bomas draft envisaged a 4-tier system of devolved government. The Kilifi draft essentially brought back the authoritarian provisional administration with a few titles changed here and there. Just also chiming into what Boni Khalwale is saying. But looking at his tweet, if we may just have it back, we go back to now to Senator Aaron Chiriot. Do you agree essentially with what Boni is saying? Look at those particular things that he's itemized there on electoral injustices. We already have the Kriegler report on election violence, the Waki Commission, national unity, national cohesion and integration, historical injustices, TGRC. If we look also at the Okoa Kenya initiative, the draft itself, most of these things that they have been atomized as the 9 points agenda, they're largely from the Okoa Kenya, most of them, they are from the Okoa Kenya initiative. So are we just piggybacking and regurgitating what is already there? What is so essentially new? This is just what I'm asking about the BBI report that will be diametrically different for Kenyans to say this is so refreshing.
I partly agree with Boni on what he says, and this is part of the reason why on many occasions I've been consistent on the things. I don't know why Otiende and Jakoyo will wish to paint as if I've had a change of heart on anything. I think my criticism on the process of BBI still stands, only that over time you realize that you can only say so much to a certain people who have a fixed position on anything. Therefore, after you've made your point, you do what the Englishmen say. You live and let live. First of all, Jakoyo, it's not right to say that I expected that BBI won't be released. Why? Why would anyone fear BBI? Constitutionally, BBI is still under the dictates of this constitution. It does not seek to replace it. Therefore, if any of the 9 solutions that they will be proposing, it will still have to go through the test of the rigorous provisions of this constitution. There are things that Kenyans have said expressly here. If you read this draft that Otiende is carrying, one of the things, for example, on this discussion between parliamentary and presidential, is that Kenyans unequivocally said that it doesn't matter the name you give to the person who will wield executive power. As a people, we demand to have a final say on who that person is. And they didn't want to donate that power to either parliament or whichever committee that you may think of. Therefore, what is the point that Boni Halwale is raising? The point that Boni Halwale is raising is that this process, we have been there before. And what is our history as a country of adhering to reports that have been done? Look at, for example, the Kriegler report. And I raised this, for example, in Parliament last week, because before us, and we expect to perhaps take a vote in the course of this week, if not today, on how to handle the issues around IEBC as Senate. National Assembly dispense of it. You must remember that one of the things that Kriegler, the report that Boni has cited, he did a thorough job at telling us what are the issues in our electoral process. One of the key highlights, for example, is that 2 years before an election, make sure that the commission is properly constituted. We are only 6 months short of that, 8 months actually, if I may be specific, short of that provision. Yet, we do not hear a conversation leading to how we adhere to those provisions. Therefore, the point that Boni is trying to bring out is that what is our responsiveness to reports as a country? Do we just do them as a way of pacifying a particular situation, and at the end of it we move away from it? TGRC, tabled before both houses of parliament in 2012, not a single recommendation. On the issues of land, Dungu land report, for example, nothing has been done about it. So the question that Boni is asking Kenyans is, if in all the other previous national conversations around issues facing our country, nothing was done about it, what hope is this that you're carrying that BBI will be any different?
Right, but let me ask you a simple question then. If nothing has been done about these reports and you're coming here on the show to tell us nothing has been done, I'm just a sort of mere Kenyan, so to speak. I expect you as a leader to actually be pushing the envelope to make sure that these particular reports see the light of day. So if all of us, we come and we're barely aching that nothing has been done on these particular reports, then yeah, who will help Kenyans? Yeah, he's itemized all this, then who will help Kenyans? You're the people who's supposed to push the envelope.
My friend, you will learn over time that the powers that be do not necessarily listen to certain voices of reason. By the way, about 6 months ago, in a statement that we jointly took to the House with the Salis party leader, we asked for the status of TJRC report and why Parliament had never found time to debate this particular issue. Up to this date, we have never received communication on this, despite consistent prodding. Things are not as easy as you may want them to be. But I agree with your criticism that as leaders, we need to find answers to this particular question. And therefore, body is right to question our... You remember in my opening remarks this morning, I said part of the tasks that Otiende has to do, which unfortunately he has selectively chosen to do away with, is to manage the expectations of the supporters of BBI and help them understand that there will be a process after this. And that process may not particularly be rosy.
All right, thank you. Right, thank you. Let's hear from Otiende. Is it a Sally or Otiende?
It's a Sally.
It's a Sally.
No.
It's Jacoyo.
It's a Sally.
No, we went. No, it's a Sally. It's not you, Jacoyo. It's a Sally. Yes.
Sally, then Otiende, and then Jacoyo.
Jacoyo, you actually came late, huh?
And then my
Who came late is actually Boni Khalwale, yeah? So you are second last, just to know.
Well, I hear the opposition, the points that Khalwale is putting forward, why he's opposing the BBI issue. But I think he should also realize that through the BBI, we can be able to implement those reports that have been put on ice. Because like if you read the Kriegler report, it also points out factors that lead to the, how do you call it, disputed kind of the heated elections that we have. If you read the Waki report, that one just points out some things. So I think through the BBI, we can be able to address those issues that have been put on ice. Because we have to find a way of opening this up, because they have been put on ice, and yet we need to implement those things. And like if you take Kriegler's report, we've implemented it in a sort of, how do you call it, in a way that I don't think that's what Kriegler intended, because the way we've done it has not helped much. If you look at what Kriegler suggested about the size of constituencies, for example, we've not strictly followed that, because when you look, like I look at my own county, Bungoma, with the population that we have, and we have 9 constituencies, while other counties with almost a similar population have 12 constituencies.
Thank you.
So those are the things we are saying. Perhaps this BBI, we've not read it yet, but I'm hoping that it will be one of the ways of opening up so that we can be able to implement those reports that that Boni is talking about.
Right, thank you. Dr. Otiende, we wind up on it. We now go to other issues as well that are
I'm in
the dailies.
difficulty, Dubal. My colleagues want to hear my views, but they don't want me to talk, so I don't know whether to mind. When I talk, I talk too much. Then I want to hear, so I don't know.
Give
us the report. You know, for me, he has it. You know, Dibal, it falls on my shoulder as a member of parliament, as a lawyer, and as a former member of the committee of experts, to have a view of the report once it's out. I have armed myself so that as soon as I get a copy, I will look at it against the current constitution, I will look at it against the harmonized draft, and my experience, and make a judgment call on whatever will be in that report. Now, I urge my colleagues, and if they don't have copies, I can provide both.
But
so that when a question is asked, we can be able to, to answer. And
but no. What is the rhyme and reason of you having a draft, harmonized draft?
Yes.
Is a draft?
No, I've explained to you. This is a draft we did in 2009.
Yes.
And in my view, it's a true reflection of the intention of Kenyans at that time.
Okay.
I want to look at the report now. What we have as the constitution is what was tampered by the members of parliament and finally adjusted by us as directed. But this is the true reflection.
That is the true.
I want to be able to look at the report against what I believe is the true reflection. That's what I've carried.
Fantastic, thank you.
Now, thirdly, I think we must put
I
this
hope
matter to rest.
Omatangi has understood now, because you are not getting it. Why?
You must understand.
But he said he can give us both. He has 2 reports, so it's the other one I was asking for. Not this one.
I have not seen the report.
All right, let him have his head, please.
Thirdly, we need to put this matter to rest. When Jacoyo keeps referring to me as a member of the caliphate, unless the caliphate, if the caliphate is obtained by consanguinity or experience, then Jacoyo is a member and I'm not.
Okay, I've
Only
never heard
if
that
it is
one.
by learning, then I might be.
That is a new one. Consanguinity.
Consanguinity is check out the word.
Consanguinity.
Consanguinity is by blood
Did
relation.
you come with a dictionary today?
Anyway, let me now come to the issue at hand.
Even Peter denied Jesus.
I think
All right, just please let him have his.
I want to thank Dr. Boni Halwale.
Yeah, but you didn't
Because,
explain to us what consanguinity means, man.
Blood relation,
blood
you know, my
relation.
friend.
You know,
It's a
you
new
know, but,
word.
and we also have to confirm to Kenyans that confirm to Kenyans.
All right, order. Just a moment.
No, I mean,
Let him explain,
but
please.
it is important that for him to also to confirm to Kenyans that
No.
he's still speaking English.
You know, since Wamatangi came back from the state with that twang. Anyway, let's go back. I want to thank Dr. Boni Halwale for giving the honest and mitigated position of the Tanga team on this BBI, because that's the honest truth. The rest, like Aaron Cheriot and the others, they are prevaricating, but they know that they fully oppose this. So sometimes it helps to come out clearly. Having said that, you are clearly wrong, you and those who take that view, Dr. Boni Halwale. First of all those reports you've mentioned, except one, were in place by 2010 when we were writing the new constitution. If that was the argument, we would not have had a new constitution, because we'd simply have said, let's implement those reports. The reason we needed a new constitution is because the reports highlighted certain things that we needed to cover. And we covered a lot of them, but in some of them it has become clear that even despite the way we covered them, it is still insufficient, and it is important to relook at them. The only report that was not in place at the time is the TJRC. The Waki report, Kriegler, NCIC was in place, the Ndungu report, ESCC was in place. But the TJRC cannot even be referred to as a report because, as you know, for reasons that we can go into, Parliament has never adopted it. It was killed at inception. It was killed by deviously, manipulating the final content. As you know, some of the commissioners refused to sign. And it was killed when, by design, it came to the, I think, 11th Parliament. And it has never been adopted. So even the ideas that are in the TJRC report can find their way into the Constitution. Another word, Wamatangi, circumlocutously.
No.
And that means another new word.
I mean,
Let me explain. In a roundabout way. So let me just make the point. I will give you the dictionary once for that.
But you have to say,
Just a moment.
that is not fair. I mean, this show is normally listened to by ordinary Kenyans. So if you allow Otiende to spend a night reading the dictionary and looking for words to come and shock the nation.
My point is, it is not right to say that because we have those
Just a
reports,
moment. Yes.
we don't need to relook at the Constitution. The truth is this. We need to relook at the Constitution, and to borrow the words of the President, only a fool would not admit that we have a problem in this country. After the new Constitution, as you know, we've come to the brink of collapse twice. And if we continue that way,
Thank you.
we could collapse. The only people who can oppose the idea of re-examining the Constitution are those who believe they've gained advantage historically, and that moving forward, that advantage will continue if we don't interfere with anything in the Constitution.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm trying to look at that one. Even my dictionary here has crashed because it cannot accommodate the gravity. Anyway, this is supposed to be Jacob video. Yes. No. It is actually on Matani. Yes.
Remind Amolo that PLO Lumumba is not in the audience.
Please. Let us not drag the name of PLO on this.
It just shows that there is more. There's much more from where PLO came from. When you see it in the talk,
It's supposed to be Wamatangi, actually.
No,
No, but I thought it is in order of how when you arrive.
Yes, it is in the order of how you arrive.
It's
Just a moment. Just a
in the
moment.
order
No,
of
no,
how you
no.
arrive. No. It is, you know, Aaron,
You want to tell me?
Aaron, there is no justification why you'd be starting. You started because you arrived earlier.
Yeah.
And then him second, and him third, and me fourth.
Yes.
No, that's how we arrived.
Yeah.
But otherwise, then we starting from where the debate begins, and it begins here. but I'll allow him because I'm a courteous Kikuyu.
All right, Jacob.
Which is very good. At least he admits the point I was going to make.
And our courteous
that,
Kenyan.
As Utenda says, the people who have gained advantage. So he can only do us a favor out of courtesy. So Utenda, I did not mean the word caliphate. I agree, consanguine, but I did not mean it in terms of blood relation. I meant you, the so-called experts, who stole our visions during the other debate, and you gave us a wrong constitution. Even with commas, we are arguing so much about the current constitution because you people didn't do the right thing. We had a good vision as a people, but the caliphate took it away from us by being careless, by not exercising their duty properly. So Tiende, it's not about you. It's about these people who steal the show when it matters. I want to agree with Honorable Seli that the issue of constitutionality is a work in progress forever. To make people, to give people a better environment, we must keep debating. So that those things Boni Halwale is saying, you have enlisted that he's saying, he's actually saying the right thing, except he doesn't know which way forward. We need a constitutional reform to stop us from further fighting, to stop us from further corruption. You know, all these people, remember during the agitation it was, how do we stop corruption and pilfering of human dignity and human resources? Or some of us here support people who are in those things. We must stop them. We must use the BBI report to discuss, as a vehicle to discuss, how do we stop us from stolen elections? How do we stop us from theft of public land? How do we stop us from erosion of human dignity by people we supposedly vote for? How do we stop the state from being so arrogant and stealing? You know, the things we are trying to cure, Dibal, arose from what has happened in this country since the last elections. We are not revisiting the old issues. We are revisiting what Kriegler said, if you do this, then the future is better. We have refused. Remember, the constitution prevailing today is one which the implementers, the leadership of the implementation, were opposed to it. And I have said on this show that, you know, my brother William, you can't always oppose constitutional reform. Bring your ideas on the table.
Thank you.
And when they do that, it's not right. You know, even when what Tiende is saying of work or draft, and Bonnie has also referred to it. You know, the late John Joroge Muchuki said, you do not need a constitution now because Moi is gone. And it was not a very easy thing. In fact, when he said it, I remember at Bomas, he was sitting right in front of me. And I said, hey, I want to know, what is this old man telling Kenyans in full glare of the media? What we ought to do, Dibal, is to accept debate. Because if we don't debate, then we cannot uplift ourselves out of this abyss.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Right, let's gravitate. I think we are done with the. Matangi, then we close it.
We had our views,
two of you, please.
Yes,
quick.
Two of us. And Bife, in this discussion, my friend Dibal, looks like you are being affected and inflicted by the closeness of attended to you.
It's the seat.
And I wanted to advise that you should have taken away that report that he's having there and keep it next to you. I think that's why he has a small sheet of paper where he has written those stuff. But you know, I was in Kisumu last week, by the way,
Yes.
and you know, it is nice to have a conversation when you have these two gentlemen from the lake. You know? Because you know, he tells him he belongs to a caliphate. He says that he's a consequent, and he answers and he answers that he is speaking circumlocutus. I mean, but do they say?
They say. Good one.
Anyway, Deval, I wanted to pick it and comment from where our friend Bonnie Halwale had made his really very good points, and I think it's a well thought out analysis that Bonnie gave, because most people also tend to forget that we have all those reports sitting in place, and we must confess that since the time when we went to Parliament, I don't think at any one time any session of Parliament or any committee of Parliament or even any plenary has taken dedicated time to look at any of those reports. None. And other than at the time of tabling, and people just debate shallowly. So I think some of those thoughts, Bonnie, that you brought, in my view, I think people ought to reflect on them and see, even as we discuss the BBI report, because after all, it is a report. It's not a bill. And that report should, by its own nature, be open to discussion and input. Then views that were expressed and collected from Kenyans, because those reports actually were a process of public participation. I mean, those people went around, and I think there has to be good views. But let me say, Dibal, that the Constitution itself also allows and provides for a periodical audit of the experience of that Constitution itself. And what we're saying, because we have had it since 2010, maybe through some of the views that Kenyans have aired through the BBI, we also might find good content. And can we then summarize it to say, and I would understand then now from that approach, why then Otiende was carrying a harmonized draft. I mean, probably it is to bring in that same concept that we can have now a harmonized view of all those reports, have a harmonized view of our experience with the Constitution, and see, are there matters that we need to say, this is what we've seen, heard, said, done, and maybe we can do it better. It all just has to be above board, it has to be honest. And I believe we'll get somewhere.
Right, Bonnie Halwale, we wind up on it. We move on to what is on the front page of the Business Daily.
Yes,
now with the people side.
The country, that we need the BBI in order to implement the Constitution and respect constitutionalism. That's a lie. Because the problem is impunity. It is because of impunity that, despite the advice from his co-principals and us, the committee that was working below them, Raila went on and swore himself in. The Constitution does not provide for swearing in after you have not been declared by IEBC. That's impunity. Two, it is impunity that Amolo Otiende and others hired goons in Igbra to visit violence on people. That's impunity. You don't need BBI to address that.
No, I have to intervene because you don't have any beneficial evidence about the goons who were hired.
I have
so
finished.
Please, you finished.
I have finished.
All right, thank you. So you cannot make such allegations.
There's many occasions Otiende makes such comments about Bonnie.
No.
I've realized every time Bonnie says you interrupt him.
No.
It's not fair.
You know, he's my kid brother, so he bullies me.
No, just a moment. No, excuse me, Otiende.
Let's be clear.
Just a moment. Let's not gravitate to that particular discussion, because I think maybe also it has been man doing not really intervene when such statements are made. So moving forward, please, right? Let's try and have some decorum on that. I think it's indecorous of you to really also utter such kinds of... Yes, indecorous. So sitting next to us.
Dictionary.
All right. Okay, let's move on to...
Is that one more, another one from Otiende?
I saw from the list you told me. I picked it from there.
I think
All right, just
next show we switch seats and Otiende comes here.
Sorry.
Then we can start
just
speaking coherently.
Please.
Nothing controversial. Nothing controversial.
Please.
I just wanted to say, you guys are reminding me of my brother. The guy is 75 years old.
Yes.
He dropped out of school because he couldn't pass CE,
Yes.
Common Entrance Examination. That guy, when he speaks English, we don't hear him. Because even up to now, he only reads the dictionary. So he's called Alphonse Ataba. Alphonse Ataba can come up with all manner of things when we are in a funeral and you say, what is this old man talking about? I didn't know that Alphonse Ataba comes from Rarieta.
You guys, you cracked me up.
How many times you have been called Jacob on this show by Matangi and today? you know, you can excuse him and forgive Halwale because Halwale was just act by when I called William Lucas. And I said, why
Just
must
a
you
moment.
always
Okay.
post?
Thank you.
But Dr. Lwale is a medical doctor, so it would be unfair to expect him to know English well. He will only know medicine well. So.
All right, thank you.
Just allow
Thank you.
once in a while
No.
to-
We need to move
This is an
on.
easy one. We're not hurting anybody.
Yes, thank you.
I'm
Thank
known
you.
to people.
Thank you.
I'm known to people.
Thank
Please. In Kenya, the medium of learning
Yes.
is not Swahili or Luo. It's English.
Yes.
So everybody who has gone through a full cycle of education is expected to be competent in English.
Thank you.
English is only examined in our days at O level when you're doing the actual English paper, and at A level when
Thank
you're
you.
doing no,
No, we're not
when
having a
you're doing the
conversation in
subsidiary.
English. We need to
No,
move on.
I challenge.
There's a
I
pertinent
challenge.
issue we need to discuss.
I
Boni
challenge.
Halwale.
Just a minute. I challenge my brother Amolo. The next time we come here and table our performance in English in O level and subsidiary paper at A level, we table.
Oh my
No,
God.
there's no point. I'll come with a test for all of you. Yeah, right. Just a moment. Wamatangi, I can see you want to say something, but I won't allow you. We have Thomas Luangu saying the BBI is a political knee-jerk approach to amend the constitution. The 2010 constitution only needs polishing on its gray areas. From the onset, it is causing division instead of inclusivity. We are waiting enthusiastically to see the report. Then we have Bernard Makumi saying, amazing show, great people. He's saying, Dibal, can you have this panel twice a week at least, or you do circumphysically? We can do it circumphysically.